Welcome to episode 121 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode's show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my hand-spun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Welcome! It is Sunday, January 22nd. It is my husband's 45th birthday today, so I am making a recording in the late morning hours, and then he and I are going to do some celebrating later today. I don't know exactly where he wants to go. He generally doesn't like to make a very big deal out of his birthdays, so we'll probably just go to dinner and do something simple, but that will be a fun afternoon activity. I hope that you have had a good week. Mine has been kind of crazy busy. And before I started the podcast, I wanted to talk about something a little bit serious. So before I get into the normal parts of the podcast, I will start with something a little more serious. In the last couple weeks, you may have noticed that I have started talking about slightly more political things on my podcast. And I have had some feedback about that. And I have had some feedback of people asking me not to get political in my podcasts, noting that they're here for the knitting and that they are not here to hear my political beliefs. In the past, up until the last few weeks, I would say that my politics in my knitting podcast never really crossed. There wasn't really a reason to talk about my political beliefs because there was no intersection of it specifically with my knitting. However, as many of you know, the situation in the US has been really, really divided, particularly since the election, and specifically in the last few weeks. I have felt the need and want to get involved with some of the causes near and dear to my heart, and those have naturally intersected the knitting world in the fact that I am creating things that have a political meaning, but it is still knitting content. And what I have to say is that this is my podcast. This is a free podcast that I put out to share with you. I understand that my beliefs are not yours, and I respect the fact that you have your own beliefs, but I can't censor myself on my podcast. I try and talk about parts of my life on my podcast and the things that I'm crafting and creating, and I won't not talk about those things just because I'm worried about offending some people. So if what I'm saying right now means that you're going to stop watching my podcast, I respect your right to do so and the fact that this content does not interest you. And I appreciate that you have watched until now and I wish you well. But I won't apologize for talking about the things that are important to me and the things that are going on in my life and are a part of who I am and what it is that I craft. So I just sort of wanted to start out by saying that in light of some of the recent comments that I've gotten, and in light of the fact that today I have some political knitting to talk about, and that I knew as soon as I started to talk about it that several people would be upset. So like I said, I wish you well. I'm sorry that you won't be able to continue with us. I respect your right to do so, just as I hope you'll respect my right to talk about what's important to me on my free podcast. So, after that introduction, I will talk about the political knitting that has sort of invaded my life this week, and then we'll go back to the regular format of the other tea and knitting and things that I'm doing that aren't political. So if you want to stick around, you can just skip ahead a few minutes, or if you're interested to see what I've been up to, then please join me. So one of the things that I talked about on my podcast 2 weeks ago, which is exactly where knitting and politics mixed, was that I talked about knitting a pink pussy hat to wear to the Women's March. And ultimately, I decided to go to the Women's March in Kansas City So I was excited that I had knit a hat. And on Thursday evening of this week, a dear friend of mine at work who knows how to knit but is not really a knitter called and said, I really wish I had knit a pink hat. Do you think I have time to? And I said to her, you probably don't, but I probably do. So I gave her the pink hat that I knit a couple weeks ago, and I went searching in my stash and found a skein of hand spun. It was a pink gradient braid that went from a very pale pink to a dark magenta. It was called Dahlia, and it was by Corgi Hill Farms. And I pulled it out, and on Thursday night, cast on to knit another pink hat for myself. So I did not get very far through the braid. As it turns out, the braid was about 275 yards. And so you can see in the, you can see that I did hit some of the gradient. It is the pale pink in the ribbing, and then it gets darker as it goes up to the top. But this is the first thing that I finished. Well, okay, it's not the first thing that I finished this week, but it relates to the discussion in that I knit myself another pink hat, and I wore it at the rally yesterday, and we had about 10,000 people come. So it was very exciting. It was the first time I have ever taken part in any kind of political event. And so it was exciting and empowering, and we basically had a rally more than a march, and we had speakers from all walks of life talking about all kinds of things important to women, healthcare, reproductive rights. We had Muslim representatives from the Muslim community. There was a rabbi who spoke. There was a Black Health Coalition who spoke. A woman from the Black Health Coalition. It was just it felt like a wide variety of interests coming together, and it was really nice to have such a wonderful group of strong women together in one place. So that is the first finished object of the week. The second thing that happened this week is not specifically a knitted object, but it is something that I took part in. On Thursday afternoon, my friend Kiki, she is a Ravelry friend and a Twitter friend, we have all been knitting pink hats. And while we have been knitting pink hats, she has started knitting all kinds of hats with charts that she has incorporated into them. She was knitting hats for her girls who are college age, and she knit this great hat and put a picture of it up on Instagram and Twitter. And I said to her, "Oh, Kiki, you really have to do that pattern up and you have to sell it." And she said, "I don't want to bother with all the behind the scenes work, but if you want to put it up and sell it, you should put it up and sell it." And I don't feel right about taking other people's designs, so I really didn't feel right about that. And we talked about it a little bit more, and I sort of consented to take it if she wanted me to take it and put it up and potentially collect money and donate to charity, because I wouldn't feel right taking any money for something that I didn't in fact create. But as it turned out, Kiki actually sort of came around and wanted to be the designer. And so Adrian of Hello Yarn and I helped her write up the pattern. I tech edited it and helped her get it up on Ravelry. And by Friday evening at about 10:30, I think, we had the pattern up. It is called the Fierce Feminist Hat. It is by Kiki Hall, and it is now a free pattern on Ravelry. She asks that you make a donation to your favorite women's cause in lieu of paying a price for it. And it is a quick, simple hat, and I am going to test knit it this week. So that is the other political thing that I was involved in this week. And it was super exciting and fun. I got to be a part of helping someone else be a designer, which is amazing. And I got to take this beautiful hat pattern that she made and help her share it with the world. And it was just really fun to get to work with her and Adrian and sort of all work together to help a friend, a woman, do something really cool this week. So that concludes the political portion of the podcast for this week. I will say I don't anticipate the podcast being political all the time. Honestly, like I said, I only anticipate it being political where my intersection of knitting and politics come together, or at the intersection of knitting and politics, and both of those things are knitting and political, so that is why they get coverage. So let's go back and hit the regular format of the podcast. So hopefully anyone who wasn't interested can join us back again. Let's start with the tea. Today I am drinking Downton Abbey. It is English rose tea. It is from Republic of Tea. It is their specialty from their Downton Abbey line. And this is a vibrant ruby red infusion of rose, raspberry, and hibiscus. It also has vanilla, rose hip peels, apples, and a little bit of stevia. So that is English rose tea. And I am drinking it in my Downton Abbey mug. Let me turn this around. So it is a very Downton Abbey day for tea, and I will explain why a little bit later in the podcast. So that is delicious. It's sweet and kind of fruity and herbal tea, but it is delicious. So that is the tea. So let's talk about, my table is really full here. Let's talk about some of the other things that I've been working on this week. Last week I showed you the beginnings of a bright hat for my husband. I finished it. This is the classic cuffed hat by Pearl Soho. And it is in Madeline Tosh DK in Edison bulb. I notice that the camera is completely blowing it out. Yes, it is that bright, and actually when I hold it like this, it looks totally like a light bulb, which somebody else said in one of my pictures. This is a hat for my husband to run in. Of course, since I knocked myself out to finish it in about 2 days, it has been warmer this week. It's been in the 40s and 50s, so he hasn't needed a knitted hat to run in, although it's been sitting in his car waiting for the day that he goes out and needs it. A funny thing happened when I ordered this. I ordered a skein from Eat Sleep Knit, which is a wonderful yarn store in Atlanta, Georgia. And I ordered one skein and the package arrived with 2. And I emailed them and they said it was a mistake. We'll send you an envelope to send it back. At which point Wes had already looked at it and said, well, you could knit me a second hat and then I wouldn't have to, then I could rotate them throughout the week. Because he's going to have to wash this fairly often because when he runs, obviously he sweats. And so he was like, you know, I'm going to need to wash these hats pretty often. But if I had 2, I could probably get through the week and wear each one a couple times and then just wash them on the weekends. So I contacted Eat Sleep Knit again and said, okay, my husband actually wants that second skein, and they let me pay for it. So I have a similar hat on the needles. I started it yesterday at the rally and got partway through the ribbing, so I will be working on that this week, and you will probably see another hat, but there will be 2. But again, that's the classic cuffed hat from Pearl Soho. It is a free pattern, and my husband loves it. It fits his head really nicely, and I think it's going to be great for him. Even if he doesn't get to use it right away, I know that he will use it in the coming years because it will get cold at points, and he will need a hat. So that is the second finished object this week. Next, we have just a variety of works in progress. I have my sweater. I haven't gotten a ton done on this week because I was working on hats and the next project that I will show you. But I did do another, I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was like, uh-oh, I dropped something. I'll have to grab that. Another 30 or so rows on my sweater. This is the Faro pullover by Amy Christophers. It is knit cuff to cuff, and I am knitting it in some wool that I got at Rhinebeck, which was, it is Green Mountain Spinnery, their weekend wool. It is an Aran weight wool, and it is in the color teal. And as I said, this is kind of a cable and lace pattern, and it goes cuff to cuff. Basically, I stopped where I am at because it was late one evening, and it is now time to do some splitting for the neck. And I wasn't quite ready to do that right before bedtime, so I need to pick that up. I hope that I will get further this week. I may not because I have several things that have come up. I need to test knit that hat. I have a test knit of a baby sweater, and I have another hat that I will talk about next week on the podcast that I pseudo-volunteered myself to knit to help out a friend. So I have quite a few things that will be on the needles this week, and I'm not sure that I will get back to the sweater, but as soon as I finish this round of things, I really want to wear this sweater, so I really need to finish it quickly, and it will definitely be finished in February if I have to stay up lots of nights to make myself finish it. So that is also what has been on the needles this week. Now, if you'll excuse me for just a moment, I need to reach under the table here and grab the project that fell. Okay. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is last week on the podcast, I talked about how let's start on this instead. Last week on the podcast, I talked about how I was going to knit vanilla socks for Valentine's Day for Roxy. And I don't remember how far I had gotten, but I finished the first sock this week. And this is in Knitterly Things. It is in her Vesper sock yarn base, and it is in the colorway Sweetheart, and it is specifically for Valentine's Day. And what I did was I went ahead and I knit the sock and put in waste yarn for an afterthought heel. And then I went back and did an afterthought heel sort of according to Susan B. Anderson's operator socks. Operator socks? Yeah. And I really liked how it came out. And I wasn't 100% pleased. I'm still getting holes sort of at the corner with the join, so I will have to reread that section and see if I can do something to make that a little bit better. But that is the first Roxy sock, and then last night I cast on the second Roxy sock, and I just put in the waste yarn for the heel. You can see it sort of. It's the patterned yarn there that looks like it has little gray boxes in it. So my hope is that I can actually finish this sock this evening. It shouldn't take me too long. I knit all of this last night while we were sitting and watching TV. Thank goodness for small children feet, because their socks go very quickly. So that is Roxy's pair almost done, and I'm showing you that today because my hope is that I'm going to finish these tonight, and I'm going to get a Valentine's Day package out to them this week, even though it's a little bit early, just so that they have them well in advance so they can be washed and worn. And so I may not have these in my possession next weekend, so I thought I would just show you now. But that brings me to the second part, which is I had talked about how I didn't know what I was going to do for Miles, because he is only 3 months old, and I was concerned that if I knit him regular socks, he might kick them off his feet. And right after the podcast was done, I woke up the next morning to an email, an email and a private message on Ravelry from a designer that I work with a little bit. I help her tech edit some of her designs, and she and I have become friends on Twitter. And she generously sent me a copy of her Pip socks, which are these really cute socks for babies so that they don't kick them off their feet. And I need to do one more I-cord, but I knit these cute little socks, and what they have is they have a little eyelet row around the heel, or around the cuff around the ankle, and then you knit a little I-cord and you have the cutest little sock. So this is the first of Miles socks, and I have knit the second one. I just haven't knit the I-cord because it's self-striping. I've been trying to sort of manage the color expectations, and I was at the point in the ball where it was prudent to start knitting Roxy's second sock because it was right where I had started her first sock. So I just have to wait till I get to the end of where I am so that I can sort of color manage and find another white section to do another I-cord. But then these will be done as well. Again, these are the Pip socks. They are by Annika Baranti. And thank you so much, Annika, for sending me the pattern. They are a lovely pattern. I can highly recommend it. It was well written. It was easy. I knit the first one, I think, in its entirety minus the I-cord at knit night, and started on the second and then finished the second one the next day. So they are super sweet. It's just a great little pattern. And it comes in multiple sizes. I knit now I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you the sizes. It comes in 3 sizes, and I want to say it might go up to either a year or 18 months. I can't remember. It's like newborn to 3 months, 3 to 6, and maybe 6 to 12. I can't exactly remember, but it has 3 sizes, and it is a lovely little pattern. So please check it out. Those are the Pip socks by Annika Baranti. So that finishes my works in progress for this week. I hope to finish this one tonight. I have the yarn for one of the hats that I'm supposed to knit, and I placed an order with Knit Picks this weekend for the other hat and the sweater. So I definitely have enough to keep me busy this week. Oh, and in addition, my husband's second hat and my sweater. So that will definitely keep me busy this week. I need a sip of tea and then we can go to spinning. I didn't quite make it this week on my spin goals. My goal was to have a finished skein to show you. And I do not have a finished skein to show you because unfortunately, when I ended up knitting another hat on Thursday night, I didn't end up spinning because I needed to get that hat done. So I have a bobbin full of singles that needs to be plied today. This is Southern Cross Fiber. It is organic merino in Beyond the Yellow Brick Road, and it is all kinds of shades of green and teal, sort of Emerald City-ish, and I plan to spin that up tonight. I also finished the skein that I showed you last week on the bobbin, and I would show that to you, but it sold super quickly out of my shop this week. It was a popular one, so I don't have that to show you. But I will finish this one, and photos will be on Instagram, and my guess is it will go in the shop on Tuesday. So that means I need to pick something else to spin this week. This is newer stash. This is something that I got in December at a gift exchange, but I wanted something slightly different color-wise to spin. And it's not my normal set of colors, but it is a beautiful braid. I received this from someone in my spinning guild. It is Tempted Hand Paint Yarns and Fibers. It is 50% alpaca, 30% merino, 20% silk, and it is in pink and blue and purple. That is the label, and the colorway is called Sex and Candy. So that is going to be this week's spin. It should be a fun one. I'm interested to see how the colors play together. Like I said, it's kind of a bright blue and a pink, and I can't tell if they put purple in here or that is where the colors met. I think they put some purple in here, but that should be kind of a fun one to spin, and it has not been in the stash an overly long time, but that's okay. I have more braids picked out that have been in the stash for a while to happen after this one. I liked the colors and wanted to get it on the wheel. So that is what I will be spinning this week. Towards the end of the podcast now, we have a knit along, craft along, sorry, I always say knit along, but I mean craft along, going on in the group. It is the Selfish Craft Along, which is make something for yourself. After we have spent a couple months doing crafting for gifts and others, it's an opportunity to enjoy making something for yourself. I am enjoying my sweater, which has been wonderful, and I am anxious to start a Find My Fade shawl, which probably won't happen till February, but that I'm sure will be a joyous cast on for myself. All you need to do is put a picture of the finished object in the finished objects thread, and I will be doing prize drawings, random number generator at the end of January, and we have a few entries so far. And I wanted to talk about prizes. So I was giving some thought to prizes today because I haven't shown any yet. Actually, I was giving thought to prizes a little while ago, and this is where the Downton Abbey tie-in will happen. I have tons of Downton Abbey mugs because I've always gone after them. The Downton Abbey mug that I showed earlier, this one. These mugs were special editions for Cost Plus World Market, and they were Black Friday giveaways. And I actually didn't ever make it to any of those, but I went through a phase where I bought the mugs online on eBay. And I have several of them, and I have so many of them that I have a couple that are still in the box that I haven't even used. So I decided to purchase some special Downton Abbey tea and sort of make that one of the prizes. So the first prize for the Selfish Knit Along is this Downton Abbey mug. Again, like I said, it is a Cost Plus World Market. I have it in the original box that I bought it in. So you will get it in the original box, in the special box, special edition box. They are microwave and dishwasher safe. This was a Black Saturday giveaway 2014. And then I purchased a canister of Grantham Breakfast Blend Tea. Again, it is Downton Abbey tea from the Republic of Tea, and it is organic Assam black tea with a little bit of ginger. So you will get a mug and some tea from me. Let's set these up so that they look right. And that is the first prize for the Selfish Knit Along, Craft Along. The second prize, I went into my stash and pulled out a skein of yarn. This is something, it is called, the dyer is Cat Mountain Fiber Arts. It is hand-dyed by Colorado fiber artist Kimberly Perkins. I bought it on one of my trips to Colorado, and she is a local dyer. And it is a 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon, and it is in the colorway Turquoise Trail. And to be honest, I am not sure if it stripes or if it is a variegate. It looks like it certainly could be either. Anyway, it is a beautiful stock yarn that I picked up, and that is the other prize. So again, the craft along will run until July 31st. Anything that makes you happy that you are crafting is eligible. Knitting, spinning, sewing, weaving. That's all I've seen so far. Like I said, you can post a picture of the finished object in the finished objects thread. You can post as many times as you have finished objects. And I will be drawing for that shortly after the 31st, probably the 1st or 2nd of February, and I will announce that on Ravelry, but I can also announce it within the podcast. So those are the two prizes. Thank you for joining me today. If this was your first podcast, I realize that with the disclaimer at the beginning, it was probably not the best one to start on, but I felt it was an important thing to say and sort of talk about who I am on the podcast and not feel the need to hide that. If you are a returning viewer, I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. I hope that the front end wasn't too much. And if this was your last podcast, thank you for watching. Like I said, I wish you well. And for those of you who would like to join me next week, I hope you will. And what I will say is what I always say: happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.